So how did you join Hustlers?
I was recommended to the director, Lorene, by Mitchell Travers, who's the costume designer on the film. And he recommended that she check me out. And I think by coincidence, she had seen my Janelle Monáe work that day. And it was just sort of this
It was
weird...
meant to be.
Yeah, it felt like it. And then I got the script, and I was just fell in love with it for, I think, the reasons that like audiences are connecting to. I just couldn't believe that someone had written this, that someone wanted to make this movie. And I just like knew I had to make it, and I hoped that she agreed. It was weird when we met, we like hugged, and it was like a weird... I felt like I kind of had the job within like 5 minutes. It was weird. It felt really fortuitous.
Or you're just very presumptuous. And like
Maybe, yeah. I was like, we hugged. I was like, it's mine. Yeah.
Did you read the original article?
I did, yeah. I
okay.
actually read it before. I had not known about it before I got the script, but I read it before I read the script. I don't know why. I just wanted to have like a sense of the world before I read it, yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any like ideas based on that, or did you wait for like the script?
I had maybe some basic ideas, but I think like it took reading the script to start developing like emotionally what it meant. I think for me, the film is really, we shot it from a really emotional place, so it started there.
I love the use of color in the film. Like it's very like glamorous, but also gritty, and I love the use of like purples and pinks and blues and reds, and I love the absence of green, aka the color of money. So can you talk about how you guys developed that color palette?
Sure. So, I mean, the color story is like, it starts with the women in the club, right? It's like naturally their place of work where they start. The whole film for us is about like trying to obtain power. So it's like struggle for control. And so at first they're like soaked in these neon colors because they work in the club, and this is like their first place of like power and control. And then the Wall Street dudes come from like their ideas of wealth, these indications of wealth, or all these, it's like white and browns and glass and all these like gaudy,
austere
it's all
too,
this austere color, the devoid of color. So actually, as they rise to power and start making more money, their spaces start losing color and looking a lot more like their male counterpoints. And actually, by the end, when like the system has come down on them and they end up like being outside City Hall and like it's all been taken away from them, they're surrounded by absolute. There's no color. It's surrounded by concrete, and it's like somehow the color story of the film is like the American dream.
But backwards,
yeah,
almost? Yeah.
or like the tragedy of the American dream. Yeah.
Would you say like I guess the turning point of you know like the color arc is the Christmas scene, because like Ramona's apartment is very white and clean and metallic, but then it's Christmas, so there's lots of reds, the poinsettias and everything, and they're happy. It was also the last moment they were happy.
Yeah, I think with every stage that they do better, like the more their crimes do better and better, and the more money they make, every time they buy, is a very conscious thing. Like every apartment, every condo that they buy in New York, it looks more and more like their Wall Street, clients, and has less and less color and more gaudy. So yeah, I think Christmas is the last, and they're a family, so it's like the height of them being a family. So you have all this warmth, but it's Christmas in this like wealthy Manhattan space, that's devoid of all that warmth.
Hustlers is a Christmas movie.
Hustlers is a Christmas movie.
It is.
Lorene, the director, always talked about this. She's like, it's a Christmas family movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could stop it right there, and then you don't see everything that happens after that.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk about Jennifer Lopez's entrance, which, I mean, the dance itself is obviously great, but I love the way it was shot because I feel like the camera is aware of the guys there watching it, but I think in like usually in scenes or like strip club scenes in other movies, it's all about like them and like it's very gratuitous. But here it's just like you're kind of just like letting like Ramona perform, and you're just kind of like idolizing her, and then you kind of see it from Destiny's perspective, and she's kind of idolizing Ramona, and she sees her as this like superwoman. So can you talk about shooting that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way in, right, for how to shoot it, is because it's Destiny falling in love with her and like just being in awe of all her power, right? So that's where the camera's like starting point is from for its perspective. I think for us, like, there's this conversation we had about like there's the female gaze and then there's like the weaponizing of the male gaze. And I think that scene especially is like, it's Ramona, it's Jennifer taking control of the male gaze, and like there's power in that. It's not like negating her sexual power, but it's like she's owning it for the camera. I think it's also like its placement of camera, like it's delicate.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
spent a lot of time up on stage with the women, so that you could feel, we were handheld with them, you can feel like the muscles that it takes to be on the pole and things like that. But that scene in particular, we're often down low looking up at her, which is a slippery slope towards it, like looking like we're just objectifying her. But I think it's like by rooting the camera in this feeling of destiny, being in awe of her, it becomes specific.
Yeah. I know Lorene has also said like she wanted to make them look like athletes. So how did you guys develop that?
We looked a lot at sports movies more than strip club movies are. They don't do a lot. They're kind of all the same
Yeah.
visually. They're actually not that interesting for us. We talked a lot about this feeling of like the women stepping out into stage, like gladiators stepping out into the arena, or like football players walking out into the field. So it was like conscious effort to like make it feel like that. We designed their locker room, the dressing room to look like a sports locker room. There's like sports stripes on the walls, and it's fluorescent lit. And the hallway that takes them to the stage also has like sports stripes on the side. And like we kind of removed all the things that look like a dressing room and kept everything that looks like a locker room. And then it came from lighting as well. I think we lit a lot of the strip scenes so that you can feel their muscles and you can see like the power behind the actual physical activity of it.
Can you talk more about lighting in general? Because the club is dark, and then like there's some scenes in some other rooms in the club that's very dark. So how did you light those scenes and to make sure like the women still stand out? You can still see them, and they're still wearing like their red dresses and yeah.
So we wanted, the movie straddles this line, right, between like something like pop and glamorous and then something kind of gritty and emotional and messy visually. And I think we wanted the environments to light them. So instead of even if there were movie lights, like the feeling was that it was always coming from the environment. So like the strip club, the way we did it is it was a real strip club, and we built in our lights into it and built out the stage and things like that, and kind of created like almost like a documentary. We would create these like 3 to 4 minute loops where the entire strip club and the stage had like continuous lighting, lights moving, different dance sequences, different colors, and we had them for 2007 and we had them for 2011. And then we'd shoot our scenes in the club, and we would say like to the dimmer board operator, like, okay, we're 2007 and we're dance scene B on stage, or we're 2011 and this is Jennifer's big scene up there. So it's like, it was almost like a theme park. It's like the strip club was running on its own, and we could shoot 360 degrees, and then all these amazing accidents happen. Lights cross through them, bounces off of them, and it kind of has like a messy, dangerous feeling. And then I guess besides that, we worked a lot with Mitchell, costume designer, and talked about how to have their outfits be reflective and made of like plastics and all these like gaudy 2007 fashion things, so that the women would pop no matter where they were in this dark club without having to light them like a music video, so that the lights could be dark and moving and never really, and kind of ambient, but they would always stand out.
I also noticed towards the end when it's like their downfall, there were like tighter angles on them, like more close up. It's kind of like they're realizing they're like losing everything or everything's falling apart. So how do you guys approach that? Like I'm assuming that was deliberate. So you just do get more into like their psyche of watching their empire fall.
Yeah, we tested we shot the movie large format digital on the DXL2, and we tested a lot of large format cameras, and actually a lot of them, they were beautiful, but a lot of them were like so epic we couldn't like tune the epicness down or like the beautifulness down actually. But the DXL, we found we could modulate resolution. So depending on the scene, what the emotional needs of the scene were, we would shoot like a lot of the scenes in the club when they're like in their full power, there's at 8K and these wide lenses at 8K. And then when things start crashing down, it's like 5K and 6K on these longer zooms. So you could actually like make the world feel more or less deep and dynamic and exciting. So by the end of the movie, we spent a lot of time in like 4K lower resolutions on these long, slow zooms. And
the world is crashing down on them.
Yeah, the frames pressing down on them, and all the weight of these decisions they've made is now, they've run out.
Yeah. So what are you working on now?
I just shot a pilot for HBO that Adam McKay's doing called Showtime.
Oh, the Lakers?
Yeah, the Lakers in the 70s project, which is really fun.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome. Congratulations. Well, thank you for being with us tonight.